So, in part 1 of this upgrade, I modded the new H500 from Cooler Master, and now I have what may be the first white version of this specific case. So now it's time to use it. I'm going to gut peri-white the editing rig, and move the components over to the new case to give them far more airflow for better temps. I'm also going to upgrade the motherboard to something more fitting the power needs of the Ryzen 2700X I have in there. Then, once that's all done, I will test using a variety of cooling solutions what kind of temperature difference you might expect between the two optional included front panels, the high airflow mesh or the solid acrylic window. Hey there! So, in this instance, I'm really just looking forward to doing this upgrade and seeing the results, so I think I'll just show you the component upgrades that I'll be making today, and then we'll just get straight to the tech point. Along with the upgrade to the H500, I'm also going to be upgrading my boot drive to this 256GB Intel 760p series NVMe M.2 drive. This will double my available boot drive space and provide screaming fast read speeds near 3000 megabytes per second. I'm also going to be upgrading the motherboard in peri-white to the ASRock X370 Tai-Chi. From every source I can find, this motherboard offers the best power delivery of all the available X370 options, and it should handle the power needs of the next-gen Ryzen chip I hope to test in it in the future. With onboard Wi-Fi and 7 USB ports on the back, it covers all my I/O needs, and the black and white finish that matches the build doesn't hurt either. Since I've already gutted the in-win, let's get to the upgrade. This ended up looking fantastic. In addition to the custom paint and RGB on the case, I found some wire wrap that I used to sleeve the AIO hoses. If you want some of this stuff, I'll leave an affiliate link in the description below. And using those links can really help out the channel to keep bringing you this content. So if you want to sleeve your hoses and help us out, you should really check those out. But as good as it looks, you're probably here to see some results on my temperature testing between the high airflow mesh and solid acrylic front panel options. So, in order to get those numbers, I ran several tests to crank up the temperature on the CPU and the graphics card to see how much of a measurable difference there might be. Using each front panel option, I ran Prime 95 for 15 minutes to reach temperature equilibrium on the CPU. Then I ran the Time Spy stress test to bring the graphics card temps up to where they would level off. I then ran the Real Bench stress test for 15 minutes for a more system-wide temperature measurement. All tests were done using the most recent BIOS and driver updates. All measurements were taken using Hardware Monitor version 1.35. But wait, Meat Popsicle, I'm not running an AIO on my components. Your results won't apply to me. Well, I tested that too. I swapped the AIO on the 1070 Ti Duke back to the stock air cooler and put the CryoRig H7 on the CPU to represent the standard aftermarket air cooler your standard hobby-level enthusiast may be using. But wait, you say, Meat Popsicle, I got the 2700X because it came with that fancy Wraith Prism cooler, so your numbers won't apply to me. Well, I tested that too, in order to represent the minimum level of cooling that might be used. I also tested with the stock graphics card cooler and a 240mm AIO on the CPU just for good measure, but I like my setup most. I ran each series of tests using the stock clock speed on the processor with XMP on at 3200 MHz Cas16 in order to have as few variables as possible, even though thanks to the new Taichi motherboard, I am capable of running the chip at 4.2 GHz at 1.4125 volts. I left the 1070 Ti Duke at stock speed to allow GPU Boost 3.0 to do the work there, and the studio stays at a cool 21 to 22C thanks to being mostly below ground with concrete walls. I think that covers all the test parameters, so here are those results for you. So, to no major surprise, we saw a measurable temperature difference on the major components in the rig. During the Time Spy stress test with the graphics card temperature maxed out, I saw a 4-degree difference on air and a 5-degree difference with the H500 AIO. When running the Prime 95 torture test, after 15 minutes, I found a 1 to 5 degree temperature difference between the 4 configurations tested. Then in the Real Bench 15-minute stress test, there was a 4 to 5 degree temperature difference between the mesh and acrylic front panels on the 2 graphics card configurations. And following the trend so far, the CPU temps saw a 3 to 5 degree improvement with the high airflow mesh over the solid acrylic front panel option. It might be interesting to note that I noticed the CPU, while on the 240mm AIO cooler, ran at lower temperatures when the graphics card was on its stock cooler than it did with the liquid-cooled card, but only by a degree or two. So, after all the testing, it is undeniable that the mesh panel is a far better option for the case if temps are important to you. Temps are important to me and to the overclocking process, so if you plan to overclock your system in the H500 case, the mesh is the best option. If you're only going for looks and you aren't concerned with overclocking or temps because you plan to run your system components at stock, I don't see why you couldn't use the acrylic panel. I can, however, see why the guys over at Gamers Nexus were so critical of the original H500 designs. It really does choke off the airflow a considerable amount. The new H500 is, however, nice to build in and a great looking case, even more so after the mod. With its surprisingly strong top handle to help with moving it around and the great airflow or looks options, I'm quite happy with the upgrade. So go ahead and click that subscribe button and notification bell to be kept up on new content. If you liked this video, give it a like, and if you didn't, well, you do it your way and I'll do it the right way. I'm Meat Popsicle from the Prodigal PC, and I shall speak to you when I return.